This is a copy of Screw magazine. I can't find the cover of it. I did get to... Let me see the cover.
I'll help you.
There's the cover, right? It's the cover of Screw magazine, right? Okay. I'll give that back to you. What, you selling those? You got enough of... Let me show you some of the nice ads in here. Mistress Dye. The golden dye. The devastating 6-foot platinum blue-eyed tattooed blonde is now going to be your personal mistress. I am the best equipped mistress in New York City. I have many exotic, erotic torture toys for us to play with. Once I allow you to gaze into my cold Icelandic eyes, you will be mine forever. Now, I've never been accused of being a prude, gang, but when I see the battle of the sexes being fought with whips and chains by pudgy perverts in rubber suits, I kind of begin to wonder. For some people, spiked collars, black leather, and cat-o'-nine-tails have replaced roses, chocolates, and sweet nothings. Sadomasochism, S&M, is it sex with a twist or twisted sex? Next on the Morton Downey Show. Sit down before I go out there and beat you. Now, I want you to descend with... Oh, you like my new collar? Huh? Got it from my dog, Spike. I want you, if you will, for just a second, our studio audience here, you folks at home, descend with me for a minute into the hellish world of S&M. Now, wait a second. Do me a favor. Do me a favor. Would you bring that back to that lovely couple that was sitting there? Huh? How the hell would you like to drop into McDonald's and have them sit down next to you? That's, I got to introduce you to the Prince of Slime, the sleazeball king of the world, Mr. Al Goldstein. How are you, Al?
How you doing, Mr. Downey?
All right,
That's great. No, it's just like my bar mitzvah, and I haven't even spoken yet.
That's
Jesus.
right. That's how your own relatives treated you, right?
They look like that audience out there.
They all wanted the pen and pencil set back. Now, Al, in addition to endorsing every perverted sexual activity imaginable, one of your personal favorites is S&M. What possible redeeming value does S&M have for our society?
Well, first of all, for me, the world of S&M is a world of theater. Genet's the balcony. It's playing out a drama, playing out a scenario. If I want to be a masochist, frankly, I've been married 3 times like you. I prefer marriage. I prefer to that one of my wives running up charges at Bloomingdale's. That is humiliation. But the sexual world of S&M is one of tension, of provoking, of theater. It's sort of Vanna White without a wheel.
That's what S&M is to you?
Yeah.
I mean, S&M is to me beating the pants off someone and having them say they like it. Like, I mean, my brother told me once he was out with a girl, and the girl wouldn't let him take off her clothes unless he would hurt her. And I said, what the hell did you say? He said, I told her I never hurt anyone in my life. And she kept insisting on it. He said, so I asked her if I could slam her hand in the door, if that'd be all right. Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty tough way to go to get yourself a little tail.
It's a world of authority and power. It's acting. It's theater.
Is it theater for the person who really digs it? I mean, what redeeming value is there? I spoke to a prostitute in Las Vegas when I was doing... Yeah, well... Incidentally,
with 20 bucks you made
I called, huh?
She turned you down.
I spoke to her in Las Vegas, and I said, she had a legal brothel out there. I said, what are some of the weird things that happened to you in that brothel? She said, I've got one very important politician in Las Vegas who comes in once a week, get this, strips down naked, gets on all fours, and she has to take ostrich feathers, shove him up his little butt, all right, and pet him and say, nice bird. And when she says, nice bird, the guy gets off. I mean, this isn't sick.
No, what it is, it's a response from the world.
I mean, that guy must have had a screwed-up mother that got him.
He is all religion, Catholicism, to a large degree. The authoritarian religions that make us sex-hating is why we feel only alive if we feel we're doing wrong. Why is masturbation something you and I know a lot about? Why is masturbation... Well, it's true. It's true. Check Downey's palms and you'll see. Why is it's true. He admits it. Downey.
An old wives' tale, besides I shaved them.
Okay. But why is masturbation called self-abuse? Because when we come
Who calls it self-abuse?
The Catholic Church.
They used to call it self-abuse. I'm a Roman Catholic.
But you're a runaway Roman Catholic. You've been married. You're out of the flock now.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not, because I got an annulment. I'm back in the flock again.
Well, I'm surprised.
Back in the flock again. Okay. And now I still masturbate.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good man, right? I'm glad you do. I mean,
I'm glad you're glad I do. What's the whole show going to be on masturbation?
Listen, your wife saw you in daylight. That's the only action you're going to get.
That ain't funny. Listen, give the guy credit. He's got good lines. Around his eyes, across his forehead, and his chin. Let me go on. Let's talk to Steve just a second. Steve, what do you make of Mr. Goldsperm? I mean...
Well, I'll tell you, Mort, he's proven to me tonight that S&M stands for sick minds. That's what it stands for. Mort, I've maintained over the past few years, based on people's testimony, the law enforcement effort that we've strived with over the years, that there's an evil empire growing in this nation, an empire out to destroy the moral fiber of the country, of the family. And I'd say that he's part and parcel of this evil empire.
All right, but what about the right to the First Amendment now? And let's face it, I happen to defend Al's right, the First Amendment. I don't want to see this newspaper at eye level for a 5- or 6-year-old in a public newsstand, all right? Personally, I don't mind it being sold if some adult is stupid enough to want to buy it.
Mort, if Al gets off by doing things like that under his roof, that's his thing. But the problem comes into...
well, but maybe there's other people who want to do it under the roof and they don't know where to find it. For instance, they don't know that they can come worship the most beautiful mistress in the land.
It's gone beyond that, where they're calling this...
Submissive Michelle, 42 double D.
They're calling this an alternative lifestyle.
Can't walk.
And the Attorney General's Commission on Pornography, with testimony... Al, anything that has to...
Is going to be indicted momentarily. You look so macho in this outfit. Are you a real cop?
Al...
Are you out of some S&M club with this macho outfit? Cut it out! Cut it out! You hypocrite!
You had to ask me...
Relax. Is he going to...
Hey, Al, he is a real policeman.
Al, you had to ask me if I'm a real...
You like...
Hey, Al, could you zip it up a minute? You're not in a courtroom.
You like your nightstick, don't you? You're in love with your nightstick. I know your type, baby. I know your type.
Hey, I'm coming back to you, all right? If Al Goldstein hasn't had his ass kicked yet, our next guest will do it for him, and you'll love it.
Morton, Downey.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Incidentally, I forgot to introduce you in the last segment to police officer Steve Rogers, who was at Loudmouth 1. At Loudmouth 2, you all, of course, have already met on a previous show our guest, Dr. Ernest Vandenhaag, a law professor at Fordham University and a psychoanalyst for 25 years. Now,
Hey, Mort.
Joining me at home base, let me introduce to you Ava Torrell. She is a dominatrix. And all right. Now, there might be some folks at home who don't know what that is. Ava, as a professional dominatrix, would you please tell our audience what professional service you are rendering to the public, what a dominatrix is?
I advertise in New York Magazine, not in his scandalous paper.
You think his is scandalous?
Yes, I think it's very crude, very vulgar, and...
May I ask you a question? Because I have been fooled before with people with masks and hair. I don't want you to expose your face. Would you open your coat for just a second so I can be sure you're a woman? Yes. I did want to be sure. I did want to be sure I wasn't being flim-flam. Easy, babe. You'll be okay. Cool it. Now, what services do you render?
Okay, well, I specialize in psychodrama that deals with fantasies of dominance and submission. I usually don't start off hitting people. First, I work on their psychology, and I want them to want to be hit, if that is what the game is. Very often, a person...
Are there a lot of people who want to be hit?
Yes, it's a tremendous amount of people. I get maybe...
Do you have any famous
3,000
customers?
phone calls a month.
Do you have any famous customers? I don't want you to reveal their names. Any politicians?
Ronald Reagan?
No, no.
Or politicians? Any actors or actresses?
Yes.
Actors and actresses
yeah.
you have?
Most of them are lawyers and...
Most of them are lawyers. That
more
figures. They're
lawyers.
beating the hell out of everyone else. They might get beaten out of them. Yeah. Any magazine publishers?
No, no. But many journalists. Many
journalists
yes,
like
yes.
this, too, huh?
But on people with
figured.
strict religious backgrounds, many Orthodox Jews, many Catholics, people that have strong repression.
You ever work on Jimmy Swaggart?
No. But he needs it more than anyone.
He needs it
He
more
is the
than
worst
anyone.
hypocrite I've ever seen.
And so what do you build up to? Now, I come into you and I say, Ava, I've got this fantasy.
If you would walk in like that, I wouldn't let you into my space.
Okay, how do I have to walk in?
Nor would I let anybody in
I have to
who
walk in
smokes.
with great No, I can't smoke?
No one can smoke in my
Just no
home
beat-up
or
sex
office.
for me.
But if
All
you
right.
walk in as a proper gentleman, as you try to do at this moment,
Proper gentleman.
I would consider you for a consultation.
Now, how do you consider it? I call you, all
You
right?
have to be presentable.
I
have
call
to
you.
be, yeah.
I'm dressed nicely. I'm presentable, all right? I call you. I say, I'd like to talk to you about your services.
Okay.
What do you say to me?
First of all, I want to see if you speak well, if you present yourself well, if you are clean, if you don't smell bad.
This
if
herpes,
your
this
clothes are
herpes
proper.
sore wouldn't drive you away.
You see, there is no, it wouldn't drive me away because there's no close physical contact in the sessions I do.
No close physical contact.
No. There is no sexual, I want to stress that, there is no
Go ahead.
sexual contact.
Okay, well, let's get through the meeting.
Okay.
Get through the meeting.
No.
It's already getting boring, right?
No, there are many people who prostitute, who also do these things, but that's something else. I'm not against people who have sex for money. It's just not what I want to do.
Okay.
A dominatrix
In other
has
words,
to
you
be...
don't call yourself a prostitute.
Of course not.
Oh, okay.
You see,
No
a
one
dominatrix...
ever penetrates you, has sex with you.
Absolutely never. You see, a dominatrix has to be... Hold on a second. A dominatrix has to be a man's unobtainable dream. If
Like
she
a
sees,
wife.
you see, if she has sex with him, this dream is gone. It becomes something else. It's a different kind of relationship.
And that's what the whole bit is?
Yes.
And there are guys like that who really...
You're right. You know, it goes back to the origin, the etymology of the word courtly love, which was the unobtainable. Romanticizing love was to put it so idealized. These are people...
And you're not telling me that's sick? I mean, that's John Hinckley.
Al, why don't you tell him, Al, about
John
gerbiling?
Hinckley with Jodie Foster.
Why don't you tell him...
Have sex with her.
Wait a second. I want to ask you a question. Wait.
You had to ask
You
if I
can't
was a
give me
cop.
a
Nobody in
ticket
this room
here,
has to
Buster.
ask
Hey,
if you're a pervert, pal.
Dudley, do right. What is it, Mein Kampf?
You
What are you,
wanna
some
talk about
Nazi?
recruitment,
What are
about
you...
kids getting beaten?
Hey, kids don't
You're
get
a
beat. We're
slob.
talking about...
Sit down.
Dudley, do right. You are...
Dr. Vandenhoek. Doctor, you've been listening to this, and you've listened...
You're worse than Dr. Luther himself.
Dr. Vandenhoek. Dr. Vandenhoek, you've heard Ava, you've heard Al Goldstein. Well, your opinion, as a
Two
psychoanalyst
things.
for
I'm kind
25
of curious
years.
whether she would accept someone dressed like Al.
It would be on the
Secondly,
borderline.
the point is this. These people are clearly sick. In the same way... In the same way, a drug addict is sick. He wants the drug, but we know that his desire for the drug isn't going to be very helpful. What this lady does is to satisfy this desire, which certainly will not cure the sickness.
Well, in not curing the sickness,
I agree.
would that sickness evidence itself in other manifestations if she didn't do at least what she does?
Well, it may get worse by what she does. It may get better. I have no idea. It depends on the individual.
Have you ever
case.
had it done, Doctor?
It's certainly not a cure.
Have you ever had it
Well,
done?
it's the same thing as a person, say, is an alcoholic. You give him something to drink. It's not going to
Have you ever allowed yourself to be a submissive man? In other words, yeah, go ahead, honey. Tie me to the bedpost. No, just one arm, though, because I want to be able to get
I'm
it.
sorry, I've never been in that situation. But I have...
If you want to be. I want to tell you he's against S&M. He's an authoritarian personality, as Dudley Do-Right over here. This was the last defender of Richard Milhouse Nixon.
What's wrong with Richard Nixon?
Oh,
Come on.
He's a
Al.
convicted felon. You have the
Not a convicted felon.
When Big Mouth quiets down, I'd like to share with you something that the professor touched on. Something that the professor touched on.
Officer.
Many of the people who are involved in sadomasochism, many of them are drawn into this particular type of crime. I mean, let's not make it look like all of these people enjoy being beaten. Maybe Al enjoys being beaten, but all of these people do not enjoy being beaten. You get people, here's their recruitment procedure. They'll put an ad in the paper for a young kid to become a model. They'll take some legitimate photographs. Then what they'll do is flatter her that she's going to become a big movie star. Then they'll begin to coerce her into committing these sexual acts on film.
What about gerbling? Didn't you have a...
Yeah, gerbling. Let's talk about gerbling. Okay, Al? Let's talk about gerbling. Will you please...
No, what is this? This is not a monologue.
Tell me about the little gerbils,
Okay,
all right? These
all
cute little things.
Al, you'd love me to put handcuffs on you. You get all psyched up.
You're getting hot with gerbils. You're hot with gerbils.
I've learned through investigations, Mort, that many of these people, and this is how sick and depraved this is, will take a toilet paper cylinder, just like the one I have here, and they'll insert it in the rectal area of a human being. And they'll send a gerbil down the tunnel into the intestine. And they will be beaten. They will be beaten now, Mort. These people are beaten, and you know when you get hit, you tighten up. Well, they're beaten to a point that they squirt the gerbil out. And the gerbil kind of looks like Al. That's what the gerbil looks like. And these are the things that are not
Officer
told.
Rogers, this is a real story. This is not baloney.
This is fact. It happens, and Mort,
Al, does it happen?
Not in his own dimension. You're a psychotic. Let me tell you something. This is not Wild Kingdom. What's the matter? This is not Mutual Oham. This is not the Bronx. He got a hot about
Let me ask Ava. Ava, have you ever had a request to put a gerbil up someone's rectum?
No, absolutely never. Never.
Ever had a request to give them an enema?
Yes, I have.
A request to give them an
A
enema?
doctor's fantasy. Now, when I do the interview with
What
people,
kind of a fantasy is that?
I want to point out, I sort out who is a psychotic, and I send them to gentlemen like this one, and who is only after a sexual kick, they should also see someone else, and someone who is sincere about really living a fantasy should come and see me or one of the women that I promote. Because I promote different women.
What is the fantasy of wanting an enema?
Well, so I even had men who want to experience childbirth. They want to have their stomach filled up with water so that they can imagine that they have a child inside, and they want to expel this.
Send him to the local bar, let him drink a six-pack. Who does Ava work on, huh? You'll meet him next. Stand by. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. We screwed around with this crap long enough. It's time we get to the bottom of this. It ain't healthy. It ain't healthy. I don't care what anyone says. Officer, let me ask you a question. Al, Ava have said that this is carrying out a fantasy, that there's no danger in it, no harm. What are some of the studies that you have shown, some of the case histories that you've
Mort,
studied?
there's no question that they're absolutely wrong. There is definitely a factor
Give me a case history.
Well, let me just read something to you. A testimony of a woman before the Attorney General's Commission on Pornography. My husband had a large collection of bizarre S&M and bondage porn that he kept in his dresser. He read the material and acted out the scenes he saw in the photos. He tied me and my children to our beds, beat us, and nearly killed us. Now, that's the scenario of many, many people who are victimized by this type of trash. And that's what it is, Al. It's trash.
Is that the exception or is that the rule?
It's becoming the rule. It's becoming the rule.
I mean, you work in this all the time. We're going to talk to a couple of gentlemen who are submissive men, all right?
That's definitely an exception.
Just a
It's
moment.
very sad to hear that this gentleman believes that it is the opposite. I'm sorry
Is
for him.
S&M spiritual in your mind?
I find it very spiritual, very
Spiritual. Now,
enlightening.
here's a man of God, all right?
Yeah.
Aside from being a
He's right.
policeman, he is a minister.
She's right. The only religion on the face of the earth that supports S&M is Satanism. You're right. It's spiritual, on the wrong side of the track.
Let me go to these gentlemen behind the screen. They are being safeguarded behind the screen, and their voice has been changed by a harmonizer because one of them is a very famous media star. So, let's start with Mr. X. And you'll notice Boggs is still out here, all right? Don't worry. Don't worry, I was concerned about that too. Mr. X, are you there, sir?
Yes. How you doing, Mark?
Fine, thank you. It's my understanding that you derive great satisfaction from the treatment of a woman like Ms. Taro. Do you yourself consider yourself sexually well-adjusted?
Yeah, I understand my fantasies, and I only choose to act them out with a consenting partner.
Does your wife consent?
I live with a woman. She knows what I'm into. We participate sometimes, and sometimes we don't. There's more to a relationship than just sex.
All right, and otherwise you have normal, regular sex. Are you able to reach orgasm through normal sex?
Yes.
Do you reach orgasm faster through your fantasy sex with Ava?
In my fantasies, I prefer not to have orgasm. It takes
In your
away
fantasy,
from my
you don't have
ability to
orgasm.
please the woman.
You only wish to please the woman?
That's right.
All right, Mr. Y, are you with us?
I'm here, Mr. Downey.
All right, Mr. Y, without compromising your identity, could you give us a short personal profile?
I'm a heterosexual male of somewhat over-consenting age into the things that most men are into, and I'm a businessman in this area. I think that suffices it.
All right. And you're married?
I'm married.
Do you have children?
Yes, I do.
Does your marriage partner and your children know of your fantasies?
My children do not. My wife, yes.
Your wife knows of them. Does she accept them as normal, sir?
No.
She does not. Well, is she willing to participate in those fantasies with you?
No.
If she were, would she be the partner you'd want to participate with?
No.
Why? Why? What is she physically or mentally lacking that would not help bring about fruition to your fantasy?
She does not have that certain dominant persona, shall we say, that I need and like.
In only in your fantasy do you need to be dominated, and is that domination just a sexual domination, or is it one that you would also like if you had an employee who came in and said to you, Mr. X, I want a raise, I'm tired of it, sit down, don't tell me you're not going to give me one. Would that guy get a raise from you?
No, I am a dominant man. That's one of my, I won't say problems, one of the reasons I like to go the reverse route, I suppose. I'm not a woman. It's a great pleasure in being dominated by a certain kind of woman.
What does that fantasy cost you, Mr. Y?
X amount of dollars an hour.
X amount doesn't tell me how much.
Oh, it could range from 70 to 200.
70 to 200 an hour?
Yes.
Ava, what do you charge?
But my psychiatrist costs that much too, and somewhat more.
I charge 200 an hour,
You charge 200 an hour.
but I very rarely see people now. I mainly promote other people who I have trained.
You promote other people to your, a madam.
Yes. No, I'm not at all a madam.
Entrepreneur.
No. I'm an
Entrepreneur?
entrepreneur. I'm a teacher. I have lectured at New York University about these questions. I intend to maybe speak at
New
the
York
learning
University?
Yes. New York University, to a group of students that are future educators of this country.
The future educators of this country, huh? That's nice.
In the health education department,
Let me ask you something. What would you do, Steve, if you found out she was a teacher to one of your kids in school and she was into this stuff? What would you do?
I'd take one of those gerbils and shove them down her throat.
What would you do, Al, if one of your kids, 7 or 8 years old, was in her class and you found out what she did?
After Nazi-like Steve responded. Wait, no, Steve, cool it, Steve.
You didn't tell me that you were going to have the three
Steve,
stooges on this
isn't
program,
you are
Bull,
all
Larry, and
three
Curly.
stooges. Steve, cool it, Steve. What I would do with a teacher would be simply, the question is she a good school teacher? The privacy of her own life. I don't care if somebody believes in your BS. As long as the person performs the job, if you're a good cop, that's fine.
Al, if a person contains...
Steve, this is not your show. Steve,
Al,
we're on the Downey show.
If a person
Let's leave this
contains
alone.
their lifestyle in their homes, hey, it is a free country. I'll agree with you.
That's for you, that's a concession. That's amazing.
Alternative lifestyle is affecting society.
Steve,
This
what about
report
the
is
teacher?
one of many
Steve,
which
the
you
Meeks
have
commission is
no
nonsense.
conception of what it's all about.
Steve, Edwin Meese is under how many investigations?
Al,
no
commission testimony.
And it's going to happen
No
momentarily.
indictments.
Al, commission
I mean, how
testimony.
dishonest can a guy be who only has 61 grand to put in a blind trust after 30 years of service?
Commission testimony from a young girl.
Did you see? Did you testify at the Meese Commission? I was a witness there.
All right, we're not getting into that. I want to speak to, and I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Is it Leo? Leo, let me ask you a question, because you ran something called The Project, which you described as a sexually liberating service. Would you please explain the project to our guests tonight?
I think it was more sexually liberating. Basically, it was a theater where people would submit their fantasies, and I was as surprised as anybody here would be as how many fantasies of submission and domination, primarily submission, came into us. They would be dramatized by a corps of actors without any nudity, without any crude language, to try to extract the essence of what this sexuality is all about. And I think there's been a tremendous misunderstanding here. As an excellent broadcaster, you've created a wonderful rodeo of excitement around this subject. But it really is a very personal and private form of sickness. Yes, Dr. Vandenhog, I agree. It is a sickness, but it is an incurable sickness. Many
Is it
people...
a sickness that's dangerous, Leo?
No. I'll tell you, let me put it
dangerous
this
to
way.
other people.
It is dangerous to drive a car. There are so few accidents compared to the number of drivers on the street that, no, you can't say that we have to abolish driving. It's the same thing with sadomasochism. Basically, what sadomasochism is a desire for something unusual. All of us have different sexualities here. Each of us likes something a little bit different during lovemaking. Some people, unfortunately for them, want something quite different. And they have no outlet. Their wives, their husbands don't understand. There's nothing they can do about this except go to an AVA and pay $200 an hour and have it accommodated, because there is no cure, Dr. Vandenhog. You should know this better than I.
Let me make
There is no cure for this. So what are they to do?
No,
Suppress this?
I don't disagree. In fact, I'd associate with a parental figure or something like that.
Forgive my interruption. I believe, I'm quite sure I know, that many of these, let's just keep it with men and women, say that it's the man who wants it, because that happens to be the most prevalent. A man would love to have his wife play, let's say, a dominant role. But because he knows deep down that she is turned off by this, she probably has submissive fantasies too. She wants to have a strong night.
I doubt it. I think it's a male thing.
I think in this day and age with the women's lib movement and everything, every guy's married to a dominant woman anyhow.
I believe that the man would very, very much
Miss
like to...
what happens when that individual
May I finish
takes...
first? No, I'd like to
Sure,
hear your question,
sure.
but let me finish.
Okay.
The man would very much like to play out these fantasies with his loved one, but he knows that she doesn't like that. Therefore, that's a turnoff. You don't want to have sex with your wife if you think she doesn't like it. You'll go somewhere where you have someone...
No, I won't, miss. I will not go somewhere else, okay? There are people in this country who are loyal to their families, loyal to their wives. There are people in this country who have moral standards that apparently you don't abide by.
No, please.
But my question is this. What happens when a father goes into one of your sex-slimy dens and gets it off the way that you say they do, and takes home what he learned from you people? Now, for example,
First of all, let me
I
correct
want
you.
to,
May I
let me
correct you on
finish,
something?
let me
I do
finish.
not run
I
a
want to
sex
give you the
crime
entire,
den.
I want to give you the entire question. Testimony. My father, who got his ideas from magazines with S&M pictures and stories, hung me upside down in a closet and pushed objects like screwdrivers or table knives up my... Boy, you got a big mouth. Would you calm down?
It's not nonsense, Al. It's not nonsense. It's not nonsense, all right? Go ahead.
What
He's
happens?
equating sticking screwdrivers up a little girl
Yes.
with a cop shooting himself. Where the
That's
hell?
a horror. That's a
You're
horror.
damn right it's
You're
a
damn right.
horror.
So you can misuse anything.
But
That was
Al,
the real
this
point.
industry of
There
S&M
are
is
cops.
adding
Did you
to
ever
the
hear
horror.
of police brutality? Anything
Oh,
can
come
be
on,
misused,
Al.
from donuts to booze to
Al, I
car
have to go
driving.
through-
And
I
who
get
are
the
you
cop.
to tell those people who want to practice their fantasies they can't do it? In
Who
your
are you
world,
to tell? Who are you to tell that father he can't shove a screwdriver up
No,
his...
there's
I'll
that-
tell you who the hell
that's
he is. It's a human being. He doesn't even know about the issue. You're wrong.
it's not the issue. It's not the issue. You know it.
What's good for the goose may damn will kill the gander. Come on with it. I want to momentarily go back to our two submissive guests behind the screen. Mr. X, you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, Mort, a minute or two ago, you said that this was only a men's issue. I can tell you that there's a tremendous number of women out there with submissive fantasies who have a hard time talking to them with their partner. There was a time in my life, although I am submissive, I can talk about the whole subject and act out the dominant role in a caring way, if that's what a woman wants. And I met quite a few women. They just wanted someone who would tie them up and tease them, and they were afraid to talk about it to their partner. Another example is the recent movie 9½ Weeks. Not necessarily a very good movie, but a tremendous number of women alone or in groups went to see it. It's a female submissive movie, and it was the only thing around they could see.
Dr. Van Haag, you've been listening to all of this. How would you react if some rag like Al offered you an evening with Miss Terrell free of charge? What would you do?
I would decline. although if it's just conversation, I would not mind at all. It might be pleasant. But
You like to make those little sex telephone calls where you hear people talk dirty to
never
you like
tried
that?
it.
Huh?
But let me point out, to do this, you have to have a specific kind of personality formed in early infancy. You must either have overwhelming guilt feelings that make you feel liberated when you're beaten and tortured, or you must have perhaps witnessed intercourse among your parents and being a small child perceived it as though daddy is beating up mommy and try to imitate it. All kinds of disturbance. The point is, the reason I regard it as a disease is that the people who are involved in this, although they get temporary relief, otherwise they wouldn't do it, if they get some temporary satisfaction, on the whole, they're very unhappy people.
Have you ever, you've never done anything like that, I already asked.
No, but I
Are you
have seen
married?
people like that.
Are you married?
No.
Have you ever had sex?
Years ago in Buffalo, I don't remember.
Years ago in Buffalo. Home on the range. Mr. Y, let's behind the green door there. Let me ask you. You and Ava are alone in a room. What exactly do you ask for, and how do you ask?
I kneel before my mistress, and I kiss her hand,
You kneel before your mistress.
and I enjoy it. And if she asks me or points to her toes, I kiss her toes. What happens after that is up to my mistress. She may reward me with pain. She may punish me with pain. Different reasons entirely.
What is the reward with pain? What is that?
In my particular case, it's the cane. She likes the cane.
Cane.
It's more painful than a whip.
All right. That's a reward, right? What if
That
she
could be
wants
a
to
reward,
punish?
it could be
What if she
punishment.
wants to punish you with pain, Mr. Y? What does she do? What kind of pain does she inflict
Be
then?
the same thing. Same thing.
How do you know if it's a punishment or a reward?
The mentality behind it is different.
What?
The mentality
know
behind it
because-
is different. The strokes might
I
be
know
the same,
beforehand.
but what I will say and do to him within between is different. It's very important that you alternate the pain with soft caresses, a lot of tenderness, a lot of hugging. And if you leave that out, it's not the same. If you really want to punish
Morton,
someone, you're
could
not
you
as
ask
tender.
Mr. Weirdo
Holy
a
shit.
question?
This is as sick as anything I've ever heard.
Morton,
I mean, that's sick.
Morton, Mr. Weirdo, if you could ask him a question back there. I'm concerned about the children in his household. Now, what happens if his child comes home and sees him or witnesses marks on him? How does he explain to his
He
child?
only pays $200 an hour, so that means he's going to the ladies' home. If he paid $300 an hour, he'd be going to his. That's what my research shows.
He is not my client anymore. He has become my personal love slave, which is something quite different.
He becomes your personal love slave?
That's quite
And
different.
he does windows. What about if your kid sees you as a cop playing with your gun? I mean, that's a more violent image than something sexual.
You know,
What is it about
Sorry,
women come to me also and search for advice. Many women call and come for consultation so they can learn about this and bring this to their relationships with their boyfriends or husbands. They come to learn. There are many women out there that are eager to learn.
But it
all right,
seems
I
to me
want
the
to talk.
more you do this,
Damn
the
it,
more
you know, all the experts in the world haven't proven a damn thing, except I still think it's sick, all right? I find that the experts are in the audience. We're going to speak to you. I want to, wait a second now. Wait a second. I want to know two things. Is this healthy? And if you think it's healthy, or even if you don't think it's healthy, do you have a fantasy of your own? Tell your fantasy, and I'll tell mine. Next. Stay with us. Let me go to the folks in the audience. All right, again, I ask you, if you have a fantasy, let us know what the fantasy is. Ma'am, your first name.
My name is Helen. I have
Helen.
a store in New York where I sell all these things.
What's
I
it
sell
called?
Come Again.
Come again. I knew I shouldn't have asked. And when you say you sell all these things, what do you
I
sell?
sell lingerie, adult toys, books,
Adult toys, like what? What are adult?
vibrators, dildos,
Vibrators, dildos.
whips, chains, like the whip you were using.
Uh-huh.
You were getting very attached
Oh,
to
you
it.
cutie, you naughty little girl. You sell bad things. Do you use them?
I
you use
sell
them yourself?
What I do
Is
in
that how
my
you
private
got?
life.
I know. Is that how
my
you got
private-
into selling this stuff?
It's
Or
a long-
did you just know there were a lot of perverts who really dug those vibrating, twisting dildos and things?
You're good at words, aren't you,
Yeah.
Mort? No, I am here to sell things so people can live out their fantasies. In
All right.
fact, I made a video catalog so people can see how all the toys work and what to do with them.
And the catalog demonstrates what to do with them?
That's right. There are a couple.
How much does the
you can-
catalog sell for?
1995.
I can't even say it. How about it, pal?
I'll tell you more. These people, they got to be crazy to spend $200 to get beat. They can come over to my house, I'll do it for free.
I just want to say that...
What's your first name?
Sharon.
Hi, Cher. How
How
are
you
you?
doing?
Yeah.
I just want to say that I think this S&M is really sick, and I think if you can't be satisfied by your husband, that's a real shame these days.
Do you have any fantasies of your own?
Not like theirs.
Share a fantasy with us.
I'm just wondering what's in the candy dish.
You're wondering what's in the candy dish? Dirty cigarettes.
I have a question for Ava.
All right, question for Ava. All right, Ava's blowing. Ava hates cigarettes and cigars, so they're giving her a little sadomasochism right there. Excitement for her.
But most of the men come to you as masochists, do they?
Pardon? I didn't hear
Most
you.
of the men come to you as masochists?
Well, you might be submissive and not a masochist,
Okay,
and you might
do
be a
you consider
masochist without being
yourself a
submissive.
sadomasochist?
They're two different things. A submissive man wants to merely submit to your will, to be controlled by you, while a masochist might enjoy pain, which a submissive man might not necessarily.
All right, Ava, but what he's saying is, and I think too, do you yourself get your jollies out of beating the hell out of these guys? Huh?
I do.
Is that a little fun?
And if you
I
didn't
mean, is
get
that a little
charged
fun? You
for
get a
it,
little moist,
would
huh?
you go out
If
to
the
a
man is
person like
open and
yourself
sensitive,
to get it?
I do find a very exciting thrill by doing it. But I do it with a lot of love, and I think it's very important to have
you love
love
your work?
behind pain.
Okay, pal.
It's a free country, Mort.
Yeah.
And these people, if they can get $300 an hour to do this, beautiful. God bless them. But when you start slipping each other Mickeys, I got to draw the line here. This is a little out of control. I mean, what's the point? What's the hamster point? Where does it work?
What is a Mickey?
A Mickey, you know.
Well, he's asking an intelligent question. Why the hamsters?
Why?
Do people have fantasy? I mean, gerbils, hamsters.
And what school does she teach at again?
NYU.
No,
I went to NYU, figures.
I have lectured at NYU. I am not a teacher at NYU. I have lectured there to a class of students. I've been an invited guest lecturer. That's different.
Independent studies,
because some sicko, perverted professor gets his rocks off watching that.
Bonus round.
Go ahead, pal.
Well, I feel people can do what they want behind their closed doors, but when it comes out and affects the public, I think it's a problem there. Now, they said earlier that there's no, you can't go for counseling, you can't go to a psychiatrist like the doctor here and, you know, maybe get cured.
Can they get cured, doctor?
I think it can be mitigated. Cured is a very doubtful matter.
All right.
And I have to say this, although it gives them temporary relief to go to, say, this lady, it also makes the matter more permanent. It's just as though an alcoholic
it reinforces their need for it, is what you're saying. On any fantasies of your own that you have?
Well,
Go ahead.
If Ava wants to go home with me after the show, would mind taking her?
Ava, you got a customer. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Stand by. You ever feel like the whole world's gone mad? Well, now it has with Mort After Dark. 2 hours of my very best every Saturday night at 11:30. I wanted Leo to have some comments. If you had some comments, I wanted you to make them.
Yes, Mort, I would like to say that in my 15 years of researching this subject, I have never once heard of screwdrivers or gerbils. In 15 years of trying to help people understand this form of sexuality, which is very poignant to only those who have it, there's no way that an hour show can help spread some light on it. But I'm afraid that what's happened this evening is prejudices have merely been reinforced by jokes and...
You know, I've been doing radio for only 5 years, all right? And in the 5 years I was doing radio before I started television, I had 6 different cases with doctors and people, all right? I won't say whether they were heterosexual or homosexual on, who used the gerbil routine, only they didn't use the paper tube, they used glass tubes, all right, laboratory tubes that these gerbils ran up. And the doctors had to take care of them to take out dead gerbils, you know. I mean, it's a pretty... I'm sorry you've been working on it for 15 years and haven't heard about it. I've been doing radio for 5 and I've heard about it 6 different times.
I wish I could believe that.
I don't care if you believe it, it's what happened.
Simply to conclude, number one, she mentioned something about a spiritual problem. Indeed, the farther away we get from the Judeo-Christian concept that our founding fathers gave us, the worse things are going to get. Number two, I ask these people to give those of us in law enforcement the ability to do our job and to put these nuts behind bars where they belong.
Now, I'm going to give Al the last word, all right? I don't like what Al stands for, all right? But I'll fight for his right to say it in this country, all right? But I think you're slime.
Let me just say it. Okay. Listen, everyone out there in the TV audience and in the audience, you exercise your individuality every day with the clothing you wear, whether you do grass or don't you, what ice cream flavors you pick, whether you're fat or thin, as long as you're not hurting another being. When I hear tales of children abused, it's a horror to me. All of us, it's a horror to. The issues are for those people who want to practice their own sexuality in their own homes. They're consenting adults. America's a free country. The freedom of the United States, the individuality is what makes us great. Mort Downey can be on this station, and he could deliver his message. You listen. You reject ideas you don't like. You listen to my... The United States unique. That makes us different than Russia and Iran entails choices. And if you're going to have Dudley Do-Right make those decisions for you, you're in trouble.
We can listen to this garbage all night long, gang, all right? We can listen to it. There is sickness out there. There are people who need help, and maybe some of them are at home. We wish you the best. Right now, and maybe some are in the audience, right? You, sweetheart, with the big mouth, all right, with small brain. What I do suggest, however, is that we get together and create a fund to save the gerbils. Good night, everybody.